Hi everyone, it's Halloween Dan. It's not Halloween anymore, but I just thought I'd have a conversation about Halloween. I'm missing it. I get asked quite a lot about why I like Halloween. This is what this video is about. It's a kind of a therapy session. Sorry if it goes on a bit too long. I might even have to break it down into multiple videos, but here we go. Why I like Halloween. What is it I like about Halloween? I get asked it all the time for lots of reasons. I'm a British guy. Halloween is not very much a big thing in the UK. It gets bigger every year, but it's still not huge. And lots of people are like, why are you into Halloween so much? God damn, why is this thing? Why is this your thing? I'm having a tattoo of a Halloween tattoo on my arm with pumpkins and haunted houses and stuff. And people are like, really? That's how into it you are? And I'm always like, yeah, it's the most fun thing ever. You gotta be into Halloween. Why wouldn't you be into Halloween? And people always kind of look at me strangely anyway, but they look at me strangely about my obsession with Halloween because it doesn't quite fit any kind of what they expect. It's not a big thing in the UK. Even for those that it is, it's generally something that's like a woman's thing for some bizarre reason. And so for that reason, it's a bit of a, I don't know, maybe I am a bit strange that I'm so into Halloween. My answer always is, why are you not? That's always what I sort of throw back at people. And they'll say, well, it's a bit weird, isn't it? And it's for kids, or it's for, I don't get it. I love it for a million different reasons. I enjoy the autumn time. I'm one of them people. Sorry if you're not. One of them people who likes the autumn, likes the nights drawing in, likes the leaves falling from the trees changing colour, all that sort of stuff. Well into the autumn. And Halloween is like the king of autumn, isn't it? It's like it's the Christmas of autumn. For me it is anyway, and that's how I like to celebrate it, like the Christmas of autumn. It shouldn't just be one day, it should be the whole month of October and maybe a bit of September too, and maybe a little bit of November, why not? People seem to not get it, particularly in the UK, why anyone would be into Halloween. What is it about Halloween? And there's still all these weird, strange misconceptions that it's this American thing. It's this American thing that's that the UK has adopted, and there's kind of still a bit of prejudice against it, that people shouldn't perhaps enjoy Halloween or want to be a part of Halloween. It encourages children begging, they'll say. It's like an encouraging children to beg. Yeah, whatever. And there's all these weird things people don't like about Halloween. Trick-or-treating is the main thing a lot of people have something against. Which I suppose I could get on board with, sort of. For me, I don't know. I think it comes from, for me, I was lucky in one respect, I suppose. I grew up, when I grew up, I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. Back then, Halloween was even less of a thing in the UK than it is now. I was lucky because my cousin, who is only about 6 months younger than me, it was her birthday on the 31st of October, Halloween. So every year it was her birthday. Our families were quite close. And every year it was her birthday, we would go to her house and have a party, have a Halloween party. It was the most obvious theme to use. So that's exactly what we do. We'd have a Halloween party, we'd have loads of fun, and then we'd go home. And whereas Halloween might not have been something every other kid I knew was celebrating, me and my brother would go home having had the best Halloween experience ever. And it just was this thing we grew up with that perhaps other people in the UK, or particularly in England, or maybe just the part of England I live in, didn't. Maybe at most they would carve a pumpkin, or more traditionally a Swede. That's what traditionally people would carve in the UK. But we just always did it. And some of my fondest memories come from that time and Halloween and enjoying Halloween. And I think what it is as well, and tell me if I'm wrong, but like how people always talk about Christmas being so magical. Isn't it magical? Oh, this time of year, it's so magical. But for being an adult, I think that if you've got children, it's magical. And don't get me wrong, I like sitting around a lit Christmas tree, drinking anything and watching a good movie as much as the next guy. But the magic is kind of manufactured. Does this make sense? Like, it's kind of, you are the one having to create the magic. You have to really work very hard to create that Christmas magic, to make it as magical as possible. And if you don't bother buying a tree, and you don't bother putting up lights, and you don't bother decorating your home or watching Christmas movies, suddenly that magic isn't there anymore. That Christmas magic just doesn't exist unless you make the effort to create it, if that makes any sense. Halloween for me has a real palpable magic to it, and it is tied to the time of the year. It's very engrossed within, within the autumn time, and of course culturally within Britain. That's the irony when people say, oh, it's an American thing. It's such a British thing, it's crazy. Its origins, where it comes from, this very pagan background that it has, comes from Britain. A lot of the earliest sort of ways of doing things, whether it be sort of jack-o'-lanterns, because they believe they scared off demons, wearing costumes to sort of disguise yourself from demons, even sort of versions of trick or treat where people would bake a soul cake and kids would go knocking on doors to have a soul cake, because the reason it was called All Hallows Eve was because it was the eve before the hallowed days, the saints' days on this 1st and 2nd of November, and people would cook and get ready for this festival that took place over the next couple of days. It's ingrained in the UK, it's entrenched, and yet people pretend it isn't. And for me, someone who loves Halloween, I love going over the top and getting lots of animatronics and building lots of things and carving loads of pumpkins and going really mental. But the magic of Halloween is, all you really have to do is carve that one pumpkin. You have to buy one pumpkin, a small pumpkin, carve a face in that pumpkin, put a candle inside and leave it on your porch, and suddenly the magic of Halloween is born. That's all you need to do. And sometimes you don't even have to do that. The evening itself, the way, if it's the perfect sort of Halloween conditions, sort of dry, there's a slight breeze perhaps, maybe just a chill in the air but not too much, and that's Halloween. It's there without even trying. The magic exists. And I always remember there was this one moment when I was a kid where I think I realised that. And I realised that the magic was real. There was a real sense of spiritual magic to Halloween. I sound like a hippie saying this stuff, but it's true. I think maybe I should have been pagan or something, because I remember it was my cousin's birthday. We were having a party with her. All the other kids had gone home. The parents were having a drink. We were outside. We'd been left with a pumpkin with a candle still inside it. Don't do that with kids. Don't leave kids with fire. Not a good thing to do. But on this occasion, we were messing about with the candle. I'm not saying you should. Nobody should. Don't play with fire. But we were playing with fire. And basically what we were doing was, it had gone a bit dark. The evening was drawing in. My cousin had this great big old oak tree in her garden, and the leaves were sort of rattling and falling to the ground. The moon was out, and we were sort of pretending we were witches and wizards. We were only like 7 or 8 at this time. I wasn't like 32 or something. And we were dancing around this pumpkin, and it had its candle in. And yes, we were playing with it. We were throwing bits of sticks and bits of leaves into the cauldron. What we were pretending was a cauldron. Not a good idea. Don't do this at home. But that's what we were doing. And that suddenly, doing it and pretending we were saying magic spells and all that kind of nonsense, there was a moment where I'm dancing around and pretending to be a wizard, and my cousin's pretending to be a witch, and my brother's dressed up as Frankenstein, but oh well. And we're dancing around and saying these magic words, and the moon was out and the wind was sort of whistling through the trees. And suddenly I felt this rush of, this is real. This is magic. This is what magic is. This is why people for generations believed that this night could awaken spirits and magic things could happen. And even though I knew it was all pretend, even though I knew it was all just a load of mumbo jumbo that we'd made up that night, there was this little piece of me that went home that evening watching the moon as we drove home that could be tempted, at least, to believe that that magic was real, that there was something magical about it. And I think that feeling of magic has lived with me, has stayed with me, and I can't shake it off me. And that's what I mean. Whereas Christmas's magic is real, but very much manufactured, and we as adults are the ones that have to create the magic so that children can enjoy it. Halloween's magic, though perhaps a little more macabre, is there without even trying, without even having to attempt it. All you need are the right conditions and a moon in the sky and the wind in the trees and the leaves falling to the ground, and it's there. That's what Halloween is. And being a big kid like I am, magic is something that, you know, it's really ridiculous to say, but it's something that I think even as adults, we all kind of look for it, don't we? We all want to when we think back to our own childhoods, we think of them in a magical kind of a way, like, oh, what a magical time, you know. And the reality is it wasn't that magical. A lot of the time it was very boring and mundane, but we like to imagine that it was magical because having this sort of magical way of looking at the world is wondrous. And it's why let's face it, why we tell fibs to our children and tell them that things exist that they don't. You know, it's why I tell my children that there are fairies in our garden, and we've gone to a huge extent to create a fairy garden. And you know, and I want them to believe in it. I want them to believe those fairies are real, because I want them to be kids and believe in that sort of stuff for as long as possible. And you know, if that means telling a little white lie to encourage a bit of imagination and a bit of fun with my children, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And Halloween's the same. Every time we get our props down from the loft, every time I set up a new dragon or witch or whatever it might be, there's a sense of magic that my children feel. Sometimes it's scary magic, but it's a sense that this could be real. These things could come to life. These ghosts could be real ghosts. And even though a little bit of that is a bit scary, especially to children, I think as well it's magical too. There's a sense of something bigger than yourself, something magical and more mystical than just you and this world in which we live. And it's not as straightforward as you first thought it might be. That's why I love Halloween.